Welcome, everyone, to the Tuesday, April 15th, Tax Day City Council meeting, 2025. So with that, we will go ahead and do roll call.
Councilmember Leota Dahlhoff. Present. Councilmember Angela Jefferson.
Present.
Councilmember Joan Cathy.
Present.
Councilmember Eileen Swarthout.
Present.
Councilmember Michael Althusser.
He is excused this evening.
Councilmember Peter Agabi.
Present.
Councilmember Kelly Von Holtz.
Present.
Mayor Debbie Sullivan.
And I am present. Join me for a salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have three special items tonight that are proclamations, and the first proclamation is the proclamation for Arbor Day, and Councilmember Agabi is going to be reading. Do you need the actual?
I got it.
Perfect.
We ready?
Go ahead.
Proclamation. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Martin proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the world, and whereas tree reduces the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling cause moderate the temperature, cleanse the air, produces oxygen, provide habitat for wildlife, and are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, providing paper, wood to build our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other valuable and necessary products. And whereas tree increases property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas since 1995, the city of Tumwater has been recognized by the National Arbor Day Foundation as a Tree City USA, and whereas the city has begun implementation of the Urban Forestry Management Plan, which guides the growth, protection, and maintenance of the city community and urban forests, and to encourage the right tree in the right place. And whereas the city of Tumwater will celebrate Arbor Day with a free event on Saturday, April 19, 2025 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Tumwater Historical Park. At this event, residents can take home a Arbor Day memorabilia, free potted Navy plants for the first 100 people, and have the opportunity to ask a professional forester, landscape architect, or horticulturist about the proper planting of and care for plants. Now, therefore, Debbie Sullivan, the mayor of the city of Tumwater, I do hereby proclaim Arbor Day, April 19, 2025. Further, she encourages all people in the city of Tumwater to participate in our Arbor Day and Earth Day celebration and support effort to protect our trees and woodland. Signed in the city of Tumwater, Washington, and recognized on this 15th day of April in the year 2025.
Great, thank you. Do we have someone accepting the Arbor Day? I figured it was correct. If you could come to the podium and I will present you with the proclamation. So here's the proclamation, and I appreciate it. And if you want to say a few words, you certainly can.
Okay.
And I'll also give you one of our special pens.
Perfect.
So there you go.
Thank you. Yes, hi, Council, Mayor Sullivan. We appreciate, I'm the chairman of the tree board. We appreciate your support, and hopefully we will see everybody out on Saturday at Historical Park for a free giveaway. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next is Earth Day proclamation, and Councilmember Cathy was going to read that one.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mayor. I fought with myself all day not to editorialize to just read the proclamation. Maybe take a moment at the end for personal privilege. I want to encourage people to listen to this because I don't think that a lot of people know how involved the state of Washington was in the first Earth Day and in starting it, forming it, putting it together. And so I'm proud at many levels about this proclamation for Earth Day. Whereas the first Earth Day occurred 55 years ago on April 22nd, 1970, and along with Rachel Carson's book, The Silent Spring, published in 1992, this is considered by many to be the birth of the modern day environmental movement. And whereas Gaylord Nelson, then a US Senator from Wisconsin, is credited with founding Earth Day, Senator Nelson envisioned Earth Day as a national teach-in on the environment, intending to bring environmental protection to the front of the national political agenda. He selected Dennis Hayes, raised in Camas, Washington, to organize the first Earth Day. Dennis Hayes is the president and CEO of the Bullitt Foundation, which promotes sustainability throughout the Pacific Northwest. And whereas an estimated 20 million Americans from thousands of colleges and schools in hundreds of communities participated in the first Earth Day by cleaning up streets and streams, joining rallies, and learning about the environment. And whereas historian Jim Brown recalled Tumwater's first celebration of Earth Day and noted local high school students were transported around the city in the back of a dump truck to pick up litter and trash. Today, the Parks and Recreation Department continues this legacy by working with local middle school and high school students to plant trees and reduce invasive plants in our environment, not in a dump truck. And whereas Earth Day led to the creation of the Washington State Department of Ecology and the United States Environmental Protection Act, and the passage of many environmental laws that remain the foundation of environmental protection in Washington State. And whereas humankind is currently facing tremendous global challenges affecting every community, including large-scale migration, extreme inequality and poverty, degradation of ecosystems, and mass extinction of species and global climate change. Expanding environmental education and climate literacy is vital. It is vital to enhance awareness about the environment and to inform decision-making, even ours, and protect future generations. Now, therefore, Debbie Sullivan, the mayor of the city of Tumwater, does hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2025, Earth Day in Tumwater, and she calls upon the people of Tumwater to reflect on the benefits gained as a result of the unique movement in our history, to look for opportunities in our daily lives, to reduce our impact on the environment, and to support the city's efforts to create a more sustainable Tumwater. This has been signed in the city of Tumwater on the 15th day of April in the year 2025. I just want to say that I know where I was 55 years ago, and I was marching in the very first Earth Day parade in California. And that was a very impactful day. It stayed with me, not just on Earth Day, but throughout my days, which have been many since then. And I do encourage people to find small and large ways to do things. This is such a massive problem, and undertaking to save our environment. But remember the small things we can do. I could make a list of them, but remember that all of us have a part in this. And I really, really pray and hope and work toward the city of Tumwater. Really not necessarily leading the way, but doing the things that, or leading the way, or doing the things that are obvious, which I believe we're trying to do, that shows that we believe that we must save our environment. Thanks for the extra moments.
Great, thank you. And I will just add to that, I was in high school on the very first Earth Day in Missoula, Montana, and we did a cleanup. So all the students in the high school got to go out and we got to clean up the whole area. So it's one of those significant things you do remember from your school. And who would have thought that it would, I'm glad, but at that point, we didn't think that it was going to be as big of an environmental awakening as it was at that time. So I really appreciate it. So I think
It's really important now, Mayor, too, because the things that were just in the proclamation are at stake right now at the national level and at the federal government level. So we have to, down here at the grassroots, we have to be even more diligent to do things. I don't know how many people are there tonight, but do you want to ask if anybody else remembers the first Earth Day, or is that too much?
Councilmember Sorta's raising her hand, so I'm thinking most of the ones out there look a little too young for that.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Dave DeCandre, yay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I saw him come in, so I thought that he might be jumping
Yeah.
up and down.
There's a few of us here, yeah.
Okay.
So I will have some speakers come to the podium to accept this proclamation. Thank you. You're certainly welcome to say a few words, and I'm also going to present you with a pen. So there you go.
very much. I have a pen. I don't have a tumbler pen. Now I do. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Chandler, and I represent the Park Foundation of Thurston County as their board president. And although this proclamation I'm grateful for to recognize Earth Day, I think it is also a great reminder that we are not separate from the earth. We are part of it. And we thank you for your stewardship and your leadership in reminding everyone that we need to take a moment to not only give back to the earth, but remind ourselves of our connection to it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And then we have another proclamation, and this one is for Education and Sharing Day, and Councilmember Dahlhoff will read that.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas the basis for the continuity of any society is education, the education of our youth is a priority in the city of Tumwater. And whereas in order to achieve its highest goals, education must not only impart knowledge, but also teach students how to live, forming and strengthening their moral character to make a better life for themselves as individuals and for society as a whole. And whereas a global spiritual leader and leading advocate for the advancement of education, the Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem M. Schneerson of righteous memory, stressed that a moral and ethical education empowers every individual to develop their full potential in making the world a better place. And whereas such an education can nurture unity of diverse peoples through encouraging increased acts of kindness, imbued with the awareness that even a single positive act of an individual can transform our state and change the world. And whereas in 1978, President Jimmy Carter designated Schneerson's birthday as National Education Day. Education and Sharing Day is observed each year on Rebbe's birthday in recognition of his outstanding and lasting contributions toward the improvement of education and acts of charity around the world. A day to pause and reflect on our responsibility to ensure our youth have the foundation necessary to lead lives rich in purpose and fulfillment through service and good works. And whereas 2025 will mark 123 years since the Rebbe's birth, capping a year in which thousands of new institutions and initiatives were launched throughout the world in tribute to this celebration. Now, therefore, Debbie Sullivan, the mayor of the city of Tumwater, does hereby proclaim April 9th, 2025, Education and Sharing Day. And she calls upon the people of the city of Tumwater to work together to create a better, brighter, and more promising future for all.
Great, thank you. And we have the rabbi to come and accept this proclamation. Thank you.
Great.
And I also have a couple of pens. I have one for you and one for your son.
Yes.
Very
thank you.
good. And so if you want to say a few
I have
words.
4 more kids at home.
Oh.
I was kidding, but oh, you're
Here you go. One more time.
you sure this is in the budget? Another. Oh my God. What education and sharing. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Mayor Sullivan, Leata, for reading that, and all of my good friends here. So nice to see you all. My name is Rabbi Yosef from the Jewish Center here in town. And it is a special honor to be here together with all of you and the City Council, Mayor Sullivan, for as we mark Education and Sharing Day. As was mentioned in the proclamation, the Rebbe's birthday was marked by Jimmy Carter in 1978 for the first time, and subsequently by the Congress and every U.S. president since, as Education and Sharing Day. And it really it might make you wonder, who was the Rebbe? So the Rebbe was a fellow who escaped the horrors of Europe in the 40s, came to America, and in 1950 took leadership of the Chabad Jewish movement, which I'm fortunate to be a part of. There's thousands of centers around the world and over 30 here in Washington State. And the Rebbe helped revive Judaism in the post-Holocaust era, perhaps the most influential Jewish leader of our times, encouraging Jewish people not to hunker down after all those tough times, but to be resilient, to start growing, and to take whatever strength they had to grow, to observe their faith, and to share with others, to be a giver and a leader in their own sphere. But today, I'm not here to talk about the Rebbe's contribution to Jewish life. I want to talk about something even much greater than that, which was the Rebbe's passionate call for education for all. The Rebbe spoke passionately and worked extremely hard to promote education, better education, quality education for everyone, and especially education that is firmly rooted in strong moral values, so that we are teaching children not only skills that they can use to work, but how to live their lives, so that we can make a kinder and better world. One of the things the Rebbe stressed again and again was the power of one positive act, how even one small positive act can change the world, and how we can all value each and every one of our own individual actions to make a massive, to be important. And if we choose to do the positive action, it can change the world. So this is a day about encouraging positive acts, encouraging education for future generations and even for our own generation. And here we are, we're in the middle of Passover right now, hence my Passover gear. But in the inspiration of this day, may we all have the strength to find some way to add in the realm of adding acts of goodness and kindness, encouraging better education for our community, and by extension, the world at large. Thank you so much for honoring this day together with me again and again. And I understand that Mayor Sullivan, this might be the last time as mayor? Or?
Yeah, this will be my last year as mayor. Yes.
Wow. Wow, it's very special. Thank you for doing this each year during your time of leadership.
Thank you.
Happy Passover.
Great. Our next item on the agenda is public comment, and I will have staff get that sign-up list. And again, I want to remind everyone that we are having a public hearing this evening, and we are also having public comment. So this is strictly for public comment, not related to the public hearing later. So with that, I want to let you know that when I ask you to come to the podium, you'll state your name and your address for the record. And all speakers are limited to 1 3-minute period. And with that, we don't want to have any disruptive behavior. And that includes booing, hissing, or any audible comments, and addressing the council in general and not to individual council members. So with that, the first person on the list is Chris Kateski. Is that Kakowski? All right. Again, your name and 3 minutes. And we do have a clock, so that
Okay,
helps.
Thank you. Good. I need all the reminding I can get. I'm from New York, so I talk a lot. And if I talk too fast, that's just me. My name is Chris Kautsky. I live at 908 Delta Lane, Southeast in Tumwater. I'm a member of, say, the Davis Meeker Gary Oak citizen group, but I am also a proud resident of Tumwater. And I'm here this evening to comment on resolution R 2025-009, the mitigation and maintenance of the Davis Meeker Gary Oak. I appreciate that the city is stepping up and planning and budgeting for the long-term care and maintenance of our healthy tree. Please consider all future action from the point of view of true citizenship of this historic and cultural treasure. The Davis Meeker Gary Oak is an excellent opportunity for us to come together and to learn more about the importance of history in Tumwater in Washington and Tumwater's importance to Washington state history. And the tree is a resource that we should celebrate. The city should commit to the long-term maintenance that is geared to gentle, holistic care of this elder member of our community so that it lives out its natural life. I think this should include efforts to improve its quality of life and public access that is safer for people and the tree. So I'm not an expert, but here are some things that come to mind to me. One, we should only do careful and gentle pruning that will not do any irreparable damage to our tree. We should try to return the grade to as close to normal as possible and as close to the original when the tree first sprouted. And we should maybe, with a little extra money from a certain election next week, use the money to maybe move the road out of the way and take away the power pole and get rid of those close-in parking spaces. Adding some mulch and companion planting to our tree would give the tree a more natural experience in life and keep it and help it stay healthy. And we should also take steps to encourage the continued use of the tree by the migratory kestrels. We expect them back soon. And encourage access and use of the tree by the public, including our local tribes. Now, I am a trained professional planner, so I have to, because it's in my code of ethics, encourage collaboration with the community whenever we discuss important issues. I would like the council to recall the complete breadth of experts that weighed in last June to support this tree. And I would like you to, when you need and question about how to best care for it, that you just reach out to all these people who've already identified themselves as allies and available to you. So thank you very much for the ability to comment. You should not take that for granted in our current political climate. And thank you for taking good care of our tree. Have a good night.
Thank you. Next person is Linda Burt.
Good evening. I want to make a statement and then I have a question to ask, and I don't even know if I'm in the right place to ask the question, but I will add before I begin. I was 12 years old and one of my teachers recommended that I represent the school in a speech contest, and I won. And the speech began, "I think that I shall never see a poem as lovely as a tree." So I did go in and I did speak before the Senate on behalf of the people, manufactured home people around the state. And I even made them the graphics that I told you I was going to make, which I think made quite a difference. And as far as I know, it's just about to be signed. It's on its way to the governor's office. So 1217 is great bill, and I'm really proud to have been a part of putting that through. The question came from my community. I don't know where to take this question, but when she heard I was coming here, she said, why don't you ask them? Okay, we used to have a water report given to us every year in the, we're in the Laurel Park manufactured home. And it doesn't happen anymore. And no one knows if the water is being tested. And as a matter of fact, on the back row of our community, they're drinking water that looks like it has iron in it, but we don't know. So they wanted me to ask you, where do we go to make sure this is happening? Because we think it isn't.
We can have staff reach out.
Okay, and then get back to me? Okay, thank you.
All right. Next person on the list is Craig Unsold.
My name is actually pronounced Krog. It's a Scandinavian name, but I'm not. And there's many stories that I can tell you about the pronunciation of my name, but I will spare you that because I want to get to my comments. My name's Krog Unsold. I am at 2211 Walnut Road Northwest, and that is in a neighboring jurisdiction of Olympia, Washington. I am here to speak about resolution number R2025-009. And I think it's particularly auspicious that I'm speaking about the resolution about the Davis Meeker Gary Oak tree on a day where you have had three proclamations before you, one for Arbor Day, one for Earth Day, and one for Education and Sharing Day. And all of those really have specific meaning for this Davis Meeker, the Davis Meeker Gary Oak tree. And because it is a tree, obviously, and so therefore should be honored on Arbor Day. It is also very apropos of Earth Day because we want to respect and embrace our environment and make sure that we protect it. And for Education and Sharing Day, it has played a critical role as a marker for the Chehalis Trail and later for the Oregon Trail. And it has certain other aspects of history which are kind of unfortunate, which has to do with the one limb that was cut off that was used for let's just say, this people being put to death and with ropes. But it is something that plays a very specific and very broad-reaching role in our community. I'm coming from Olympia to try to affect Tumwater City Council to make the appropriate decision here, because it is something which is it's worth much more than just Tumwater, because it is something that is for the whole region. And so at that, I really applaud that you are considering this resolution, and that I really hope, I know that we're not supposed to be making public comment because we don't make public comment until after you pass the resolution. But I really do encourage you to pass the resolution and bestow upon the tree the kind of honor and prestige that it deserves. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dave Nicandri.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Dave Nicandri. I'm a member of the city's Historic Preservation Commission, and I was elected to this council in 1976, back in the 1900s, which makes me almost historic myself. So I'm also here to speak to the tree. I I've actually been to Nebraska City, Nebraska, where Arbor Day started. And if you have only to look at the treeless plains to gather great appreciation for what in some instances, the meaningfulness and value that a single tree can have. And I think to some extent relative to the tree in question, because we have so many trees, maybe not so many oak trees like it, I think we take this species somewhat for granted in this great environment of ours. The mayor counseled us not to speak to anyone in particular, but I want to commend the mayor for reconsidering her position on the fate of the tree. A famous theologian once said, if you change your thoughts, you can change the world. And I think, Mayor, with this resolution in its own little way, we're about to do that in Tumwater. The expenditure might seem like a lot for a tree, $55,000. But because I have the privilege of being on the Historical Commission, I know, and having served on the City Council, less relevance. I don't want to overstate this, but the city is literally spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, on 2 historic houses. And I'm not, of course, advocating we get rid of those houses. But we're spending 7 figures to preserve structures that are effectively white elephants, if I can use that archaic term. There's no likelihood that they'll ever have a productive use as originally intended. Back in the 1970s, when the previously aforementioned Jim Brown adopted this, established the city's role relative to those 2 places down on Deschutes Way. So I'm going to be presenting at a work session regarding a work item that's come up from the Historic Preservation Commission on historic signs and markers, but I'm also working on another work item I hope can come before the council sometime before the year is out, where we might come up with a more productive and utile and cost-effective manner of using those historic houses, which again, the amount of money being spent on them compared to the relative pittance that the tree represents is something that I will be recommending to the commission and hopefully to you all before the year is out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So did we have anyone signed up online? Great. Anyone else in chambers wants to give public testimony in anything that's not related to our public hearing this evening? Okay. With that, we will now move to the consent calendar. Excuse me. So do I hear a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar. I'm sorry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. I've had allergies. This is driving me crazy. So, sorry. So with that, we have passed the consent calendar. I'll turn it over to.
If anyone would like to also take a sip of their beverage, now would be a great time. It goes smoothly. Want to take a stretch? Good. We've passed the consent item. If you're all tracking on the agenda, it's item number 6. We're going to move to item number 7, the public hearing, resolution R 2025-008, and development agreement with Tumwater 70th Avenue LLC for conversion of on-site septic to public sewer service. And Mayor Sullivan is back.
Thank you. All right. Sorry about that. So with that, we are now going to look at have a public hearing on resolution R 2025-008 regarding the 70th Avenue LLC. And we'll have staff who will be starting with a presentation.
Good evening, council members. I'm Patrick Soderberg. I'm the Water Resources and Sustainability Program Manager. And we have a presentation for you tonight, which will be on Zoom with one of our contractors, Meredith, from Greer Environmental. And she's going to talk about the Velcomen Mobile Park Septic to Sewer Conversion Program.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to present on this project that we've been kind of working on for for a number of years now. So kind of a little background setting as I go over the next slide in the presentation. So a lot of the work surrounding septic to sewer conversions really kicked off about 10 years ago when a large number of kind of leaders in the sewer and septic community all came together down at Lock Clean Water Alliance in Olympia for the 2015 Regional Septic Summit. The goal was to kind of get a better grasp and understanding on what is the issue with regarding to septic systems within Tumwater, Olympia, and Lacey. What is kind of the barriers to being able to convert these areas over to sewer, and what are kind of the next steps from there? So part of this work, which included members of Tumwater staff as well as city council members, current and past, was figuring out just how many septic systems are within the city of Tumwater. And we were able to determine that there are almost 1,000 just within city limits and even more outside of city limits. And conventional septic systems in of themselves are a great option for dealing with waste from homes and things like that. They're awesome at being able to take that, treat it, and kind of disperse it into the ground to be able to be filtered. The problem comes in areas where we have what we're considering high density septic systems. So these are areas where we have a number of septic systems within a close kind of proximity to each other. And this means that as the soil would naturally be kind of filtering out a lot of the pollutants before it hits our groundwater, these areas become oversaturated. A lot of our groundwater and aquifers are almost like sponges. And at some point, if you're ever, using a sponge while you're cleaning your dishes in a sink, at some point the sponge can't soak up any more water. And that's what ends up happening in these areas where we have high density septic systems. So in cities like Tumwater, the ultimate goal from a perspective of having cleaner drinking water and protecting drinking water for the future is to be able to convert a lot of these high density septic systems to sewer, is that there are a number of issues with this. For starters, the cost is extremely high. On average, we see about $10,000 to $40,000 per homeowner, and these costs are almost prohibitive toward anybody being able to do it. In addition, there's also issues with kind of lack of participation. Costs related to septic system conversions can come from a number of different sources. Some of it is just about abandoning your current septic system. Some of it is related to connecting to the city sewer. And in some cases, if there isn't sewer that runs outside the street in front of your property, you may be asked to extend that sewer. All of these things are really cost prohibitive and challenging to do. In addition, the scale of addressing this problem as a one kind of property at a time means that it's going to take a really long time to occur. Since 2015, as we've been working on converting more private septic systems to city sewer, we're seeing on average about 5 conversions per year. If we continue at that kind of rate, it would take almost 200 years just for all of the septic systems within the city of Tumwater to be able to be converted. So when we're thinking about all of this and trying to protect Tumwater's greatest asset, which is our clean, clear drinking water, we started to think about what are better ways we might be able to convert more high density septic systems quicker. And what does this look like? And so that got us thinking about areas within Tumwater that have high density septic systems. And some of these areas include mobile home parks. And so as we were trying to conceptualize what a project might look like, we were looking at partners who are already doing great work in the area. Next slide, please. So previously, the city of Tumwater had worked with the Velcoma Mobile Home Park. This is a community off of 70th Avenue here in Tumwater that is owned and operated by Greg and Dan Pantanita. They are property owners who have worked with the city on a couple of other projects for this area. Previously, the city of Tumwater had received a water system consolidation grant that helped to convert this property from a private drinking water well on an adjacent property onto city water. The goal here was to be able to provide residents with high quality, accessible, and affordable water. And when we were working through that project, there was also a mention that they would eventually be interested in being able to connect to sewer. When we were thinking about trying to find a mobile home community that worked for this kind of thing, working with Velcoman on this other drinking water project, it seemed like a great match. So the city of Tumwater started to seek out potential grant funding that would help to complete this type of a project. Next slide. The City of Tumwater in 2022 applied for and received a grant from the Department of Ecology's Centennial Clean Water Grant. Ultimately, the funding source we were looking at allows for total project costs of $1 million, and from there, it would help to support some of the costs. Right now, the Department of Ecology is going to be providing $500,000 in funding for the project, with the City of Tumwater's sewer utility providing additional funds. The project is broken down into 3 different parts. Some of that funding is for grant administration and reporting, making sure that every single quarter the city is providing the necessary documentation needed, as well as a social marketing campaign. The city's ultimate goal here is to be able to launch this almost as a pilot program. Having never worked with a mobile home community and knowing that a lot of our partners within Western Washington hadn't either, this is a great opportunity to kind of think about what are all the steps that would need to be taken, what are all the considerations, the barriers, and things like that toward being able to convert these areas, especially knowing that it tends to be the case in some of these mobile home communities that residents who live there are income restricted. You know, nobody is going to be having $40,000 in their back pocket to be able to convert singly to sewers. So we had to look at what does a different model look like in order to be able to work with these communities. So part of this funding from the grant is to be able to do that. The City of Tumwater would ultimately love to be able to go through this pilot program, be able to look at the benefits, what types of programs need to be in place to help support something like this. That way, when we're able to be able to finish this project, we could take that kind of blueprint to work with other mobile home communities within the city, as well as to be able to share it with some of our regional partners. Lacey, Olympia, Thurston County, and other communities all around Washington are facing similar issues. This would be kind of a groundbreaking, first of its kind program that would look like, how do we work with these projects specifically? The rest of the grant funding would be focused specifically on kind of the nuts and bolts of connecting the current community to sewer. Next slide, please. So we're thinking about what is eligible and why we're bringing a development agreement forward. Ultimately, this is helping to provide a structure and framework for the city to be able to work with 70th Avenue in order to make this project move forward. When we're thinking about kind of the facts and figures of this, the goal is to be able to convert the 39 current units on site all to city sewers. So we're decommissioning their current septic systems, connecting them through to sewer laterals, running a sewer line through the park, and doing everything like that. All of those kind of expenses and things related to that are eligible for grant reimbursement. 70th Avenue LLC, which Greg Pantanita is here tonight to be able to answer any of the questions that might be on that side of things, are in charge of recruiting and contracting folks who would be doing the designs and permitting, as well as the construction of the project. They'd also be making sure that they're bringing their park up to standards and connecting any future pads and things like that that they might be putting in there per city standards to the newly erected sewer system. They're also in charge of documenting and making sure that they're following all best practices there. The city, on the other hand, is taking a more of an administration role. The city, since they're the ones who are holding the grant agreement with the Department of Ecology, are doing the quarterly reporting, providing payment requests and reimbursements, as well as some final reports. In addition, we're documenting processes and we're drafting kind of that blueprint document and then the final version of that I had mentioned earlier. Ultimately, the goal is to be able to use this kind of first of its kind project as a pilot. The real benefit here is that we'll take a bunch of lessons learned in order to kind of take them into the future. The goal is to be able to create and manage how these kind of septic to sewer conversions could go in the future in ways that are cost effective for the folks who live in these communities, in ways that meet the current development standards the City of Tumwater has, and that are being done in a timely manner to ensure that we're protecting our natural resources, including our high quality drinking water. I know that was a very quick overview and high level, but myself, Patrick, and Greg are happy to answer any questions that might have come up about this project and what we're proposing to do. Ideally, we're hoping to finish the construction of this project this year as our grant agreement ends in November of 2025.
Great, thank you. Patrick, do you have anything to add to that? Great, thank you. So does council members have any questions before I open up the public comment portion? Hold on one moment. Councilmember Dahlhoff.
Thanks, Mayor. Patrick, this may be for you, so maybe you can decide if you want to stand or not. Just one thing, I understand this concept and I like that we're pursuing that and looking into that, right? Overall, the question I have is, if we move forward with this concept and this grant, what is the impact of the residents who live there, right? Like, if they were on septic in the park, did they divvy out the pumping of those tanks and that was added to their rent? Right? So what does it mean moving forward with this? What is the impact? Because that's primarily, it's
So-
seniors, right?
I think the person who manages this is here to answer that specific question, because I don't know for sure how they were billing and managing the septic system. I would assume that now these people may get bills because they will have an individual connection to lot, to or sewer. So they may incur that. I don't know if they were asked to pay into any sort of septic maintenance over time as part of their lot agreement.
I would be happy to address that if you'd like.
It's like I hear a voice coming. from
Greg
somewhere.
Campanita. Yeah, Greg Campanita.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So basically, in the past, the owners have basically paid the cost of maintaining the septic system. We have now modified the leases to where the residents will pay sewer fees. And we basically did that in lieu of a rent increase. And we also are communicating to our residents that if you are low income, that the city basically has approximately a 50% reduction in monthly fees for sewer. So yes, it's going to impact our residents, but you have the benefit of a more reliable system being a sewer system versus septic. You have the ability to now put in garbage disposals that you couldn't put in before. So we think the park is being improved by that, infrastructure. But the big issue is the fact that our septic systems are on top of the city aquifer. And I think from an environmental standpoint, I think it's something the city should be quite focused on. I will mention to you that the total project cost is about $2,520,000. That includes basically adding 8 pads to the mobile home park. We're approved to add 10 pads. The only way we could rationalize spending this amount of money, and that's the gross amount without consideration of the grant. But the only way we could rationalize spending this amount of money was to add more pads, i.e. basically taking the drain field areas and converting them to housing. And keep in mind that we're going to be putting in new homes into this park, basically 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes. And those homes will be priced at about under $250,000. So now, admittedly, you're buying a home and you're also paying your pad rent, but still, in the scheme of things, relative to affordable housing, $250,000 to buy a home is rather attractive. This is an age 55 park, and we're looking forward to the upgrade. Obviously, doing the sewer, we're putting in brand new roads, street lighting in some areas, sidewalks. So it'll be a good situation for the residents. They're looking forward to the improvements.
With that, I'm wondering the elements of the quarterly reports. Is there somewhere documented, or will it be identified if any of those seniors are having struggles paying for that increase or that lot fee? Is there a way to track that?
I know we have a Lifeline program. We can see
verify.
if those people are all connected and have availability to access that.
Perfect. I just like through all this, some circling back, some follow through to make sure that we're not creating unintended consequences.
Yes, and part of the blueprint document, the kind of social marketing campaign that was called out in one of the other slides, the goal is to be able to document, where are barriers, where are pinch points in all of this, from developers to the city to the residents who live in these areas. And so following up with them, figuring out what that cost looks like, how that's changing kind of their monthly, billing and budgeting is something that we will definitely be documenting in there, and figuring out, okay, moving forward, does this kind of utility fee structure make sense in these scenarios? What are options there? Because we'd hate to be making these improvements that then force people out of price points that they're able to afford. And so making sure that all of that is captured in these documents is definitely something that we will be doing. And we're happy to share that draft report for you to be able to review as we work through that later this year.
Great,
And
thank you.
can I also state that I am happy to cooperate with city staff on basically having a very transparent transaction where I'm happy to share my actual numbers with the city staff so we can really talk about how can we make this economically feasible for other people, because I think this is something that you do need to focus on. And I will tell you, the city cost per pad of doing this is $9,255. That's a cost per pad. And total city fees are about $435,000. So as we talk about affordable housing, I want the city to understand the impact of city fees.
Great, thank you. All right, with that, any other questions by council? So I'm going to go ahead and at this time and open it up for public testimony, and I will have staff get the sign-up sheet. When I call your name, come to the podium and speak into the microphone, again, with your name and address. And your remarks are limited to 3 minutes. And so with that, I am opening up the public comment portion of our hearing. And we do not have anyone signed up for public comment. Do we have anyone online signed up for public comment?
We do not.
Okay, we do not. Anyone in council chambers who wish to speak for public comment? All right.
Mayor, can I make one further comment?
One moment, we do have someone
Sure.
who's coming forward and speaking. If you can state your name and address for the record, and again, I know you've spoken before, so.
Okay, I'm Krog Unsold, and my address is 2211 Walnut Road Northwest, Olympia. And I wanted to speak because I do have a master's in city planning from MIT. And when I was there, my dissertation was on institutional constraints to innovative technology for municipal wastewater treatment, a Greater Boston case study. And what Tumwater is addressing here is a problem because Thurston County is totally dependent upon groundwater for drinking. And we are having two problems with that groundwater. One is the infiltration of nutrients and toxics. And the other is the withdrawal of the water for drinking and for domestic uses, domestic and industrial uses, certain bottling plants that are proposed and so forth. And so I wanted to even challenge you to go one step further because I work with the Clean Black Lake Alliance, which is something that came out of Gary Klein, who runs the Black Lake Organics greenhouse on the lake, and so we are looking at trying to come up with ways of limiting the nutrient loading. Across the way is Black Lake is interesting because it's mostly in the county, except for Tumwater in the urban growth area is in the Black Lake watershed. And so it is possible to put in sewer in the urban growth areas in Tumwater, but for the mobile home parks, which are on, I guess that would be the east shore of the lake, they are senior, for seniors, and they are a definite source of nutrient loading from the septics. And so how can we get it so that we could try to do something for them, whether it be a package plant, whether it be, because we, at least at this point, we can't run the sewer line outside of the urban growth areas. So that's something that I want to plant a seed for you to consider about. And if you have any questions about it, I'm easy, you can reach me.
Great, thank you. All right, and you had one other thing you wanted to say?
Yes, I do. Mayor Sullivan, Council, yeah, we've been negotiating this for about 3 years. And I just want to mention to you that Dan Smith, Meredith in Water Resources, Tammy and Kelly in Community Planning, Jared Crew, Jeff Query in Public Works, they have been an absolute pleasure to work with. They've been demanding at times, appropriately so, but they've certainly just been very, very professional in how they've dealt with us. And I really do appreciate this.
Great, thank you. All right, any more other comments before I close the public comment portion of the public hearing? Okay, with that, the public comment portion is closed. And so I will now turn it over to council. Let me turn on your microphones. Any comments, questions, or are you ready to entertain a motion? Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Dalha.
Thank you, Mayor. Then Councilmember Swarthout can make the motion. Just the overall concept, right, with the grants and as we move forward. And Tumwater has, I mean, the last count was around 700 manufactured homes, right, primarily seniors. So this concept, I'm in support because of the idea of expanding that. Velkeman is right down the road from me. I do not have access to sewer and I'm on well. So if that project continues, then it allows more access. And I would love this concept to keep going regarding whole neighborhoods joining, right? And what I would love is that partnership with Lot to do the 2-for-1 for accessory dwelling units to keep families together. And primarily selfishly, I would like to caregive for my mother in that capacity and plan for that and also care and aid, right? So I want this to be successful because then we can take that template and maybe expand it to other ideas with other partnerships. So I'm in support of this and I hope my seatmates vote in support of this because this could really model the way of how we protect our environment, not just our green spaces, not just our air, but our water, because it's very, very important. Because what's the tagline from a business that used to be here? Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for that engagement. So I hope that you all vote yes with me.
Councilmember Swarthout.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. With that, then I would like to make a motion to adopt Resolution R 2025-008 and development agreement with Tumwater 70th Avenue LLC following the conclusion of the public hearing at the April 15th.
I second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Swarthout, seconded by Councilmember Jefferson. Any additional comments or on the motion?
I'd like to speak.
Go ahead, Councilmember Swarthout.
Thank you. One of the first things that I, as a council member, attended was the Septic Summit back in 2015. And it was very impressive. It was full of a lot of red dots. And the red dots were the county map showing where septics currently were. And so there was a little bit of a breath that Olympia or Tumwater didn't have quite as many, but we still do. And realizing how, and the cost of this and everything was so expensive and it's just staggering, but we have to start somewhere. And I appreciate the developer hanging in with our staff, 3 years, using this as a model that we can see how we can address other homeowners in our community as well to be able to provide this. It's critical. It's absolutely critical for the safety of our water. And so I am very much in support of this and appreciate my council member's support as well.
Great. Any other comments? Oh, Councilmember Kathy, I thought I saw your hand up.
Yes. I forgot the little yellow hand. I'm in support of this. The only concern, hesitation, whatever that I have is how this is going to affect the seniors in having individual billing from lot. Because lot is not cheap. So, and you know, they raise their rates regularly, and I just don't quite understand how that's going to work, but I have a concern about that. But as far as connecting to the sewer, I'm wholeheartedly in favor of that.
All right, Councilmember Jefferson.
Yes, Mayor. Can we have Lot circle back with us on this to answer those specific questions for us?
What specific question?
Right. For the scene, what is it gonna look like payment wise? What might the bill look like monthly?
It's like $100 a month.
100.
Yeah, and we have the programs, and so, you know,
Okay.
we'll see, and like it was stated before, we'll have data and how much it costs and who will all participate in some of the programs that are available.
Right. I think that'll work just to make it clear. And there's an expense, you know, it's expensive and I support this, but what is the expense for our water and our aquifers? There's just is no expense. So I support this 100%.
Thank you. Any other comments before I call for the vote? All right, with that, all favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. And now we are off to the next item, which is the community survey briefing. And Jason Wetstein will be presenting. So welcome, Jason.
Well, hello, Mayor, members of the council. I have the pleasure of following Mr. Krog Unsold, who's as tall as me. And so that's really beautiful. I don't have to adjust the microphone. And I also have the pleasure to introduce DHM Research, a terrific company that's done cutting edge work on community surveys around the state. Today we have Devin and Kara with us from the company. I don't want to take too much of their time, but I do want to mention a few background items. DHM has conducted many statistically valid surveys in the Northwest, including Vancouver, Kirkland, Salem, a variety of other locations. They have a lot of experience. And their selection was a result of a competitive RFP process consistent with city policy and including accessing the MSRP database to try to ensure that we had a very broad perspective on who we were trying to reach with this RFP. They're both local to the Pacific Northwest and came out on top of a half a dozen finalists of very qualified companies from around the country. We chose them because they have a distinctive ability to measure and convey and even prioritize community sentiment from statistically valid surveys, information that is key to city administration and strategic planning. And I guess the working hypothesis here is that if a city knows the real community values and can reflect those real community values in its work, it's more likely to be on track with that community. So we're taking a statistically valid, apolitical informational check on the pulse of the community, at least that's the hope, as one pillar of strategic planning. And with that, I want to let DHM take it from here. So thank you.
Thank you, Jason, Mayor Sullivan, and council. Thank you for having us tonight. Lisa, Jason, and staff, thank you for inviting us to come down. I wish you could give mine and Kara's introduction everywhere we went. That was really nice. So thank you so much. Can we go to the next slide? Oh, I have the power. Thank you. Jason did a great job. Just another brief overview of DHM Research as a company. DHM has been around for over 3 decades in the Pacific Northwest. We're a small company. There's 13 of us right now. We have an office down in Portland and another office in Seattle. So we really do almost all of our research in the communities in the Pacific Northwest. Kara and I have not been doing this research for over 3 decades, but she and I have both been doing Pacific Northwest region-specific policy research, I guess for all of our careers, for both of us. As Jason mentioned, we've worked with cities and counties throughout the region. Some of the ones we're highlighting are the same that he did. The city of Kirkland, last year we worked with them. The city of Vancouver, we've worked with them on a repeat basis a couple of times. We're currently working with the city of Burien up in King County. And our specialty is statistically valid survey research. So reaching a representative group of communities to try to understand values, sentiments, understanding, satisfaction with whatever it is that's important to their community. And so one of the reasons we pitch ourselves as DHM is because we come in and work with the staff and with councils to make sure we are building a customized research approach, asking questions that are not just taken off the shelf, that we ask the same thing for every community, but that the content of the survey is only things that are important to you all and hoping to guide that actionable insight moving forward. So the project team, just to talk a little bit about who we are, 2 of us are here today. I'm the director of research at DHM. My background is in economics. I have a master's degree, and after studying there, I worked just down the road in Olympia at an agency called the Washington State Institute for Public Policy, where I did Washington-specific policy research. Between there and DHM, I've been doing Washington-specific policy research for almost a decade. And we do a lot of work with local government, which is my favorite type of client to work with, being in council chambers like this and in other small meeting rooms where we get to talk about the things that are important to your community. I'll also introduce David before I let Kara introduce herself. He's not here with us today. He works on our team out of our Portland office. He's going to be our lead research analyst on the project. He's our most experienced research analyst, and he is a data visualization expert. And so we think we have some really fun opportunities with the questions we're going to ask to create some data visualizations that communicate a lot of data in a really clear, concise manner. Kara?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Sullivan, council members. My name is Kara Kernachik, and I'm a research manager at DHM. I work primarily in Washington, conducting public opinion research. I do a little bit of work in Oregon, but mostly, since I'm based in Seattle, I do all of my work in Washington. Devin and I have very similar backgrounds. I previously worked at the Washington State Institute for Public Policy, and I have been doing public policy research in the state of Washington for 4 years now. So I'm just a little bit behind Devin. I also have a background in economics. My master's degree is in applied economics. So very similar backgrounds, but we have very strong statistical analysis skills, and we are very excited to work with the city of Tumwater.
Okay, so we won't take too much of your time. We're going to talk a little bit about our high-level research approach, and then Kara's going to talk a little bit about the content that we've developed so far, and then we're going to not spend too long doing that so that we have time for questions. So there's 2 prongs to the overall research approach here, and what Jason talked about, I think, is the foundation, and that's what we're calling the statistically valid survey of Tumwater residents. And so we're currently working with staff to design the survey instrument. We're going to end up with a survey that takes between 12 and 15 minutes to take for residents. And we're going to use what we call a hybrid phone outreach approach. So we're going to be doing phone calls and text messages. The reason we take multiple approaches is because we've learned in survey research, especially in 2025, that different groups of people prefer to participate in survey research in different ways. And since our goal here is to be representative to reach folks across income and age and education and other demographic groups, we're going to use sort of that broadest approach where we're calling landlines and we're calling cell phones and we're sending text messages to make sure we reach a representative group. Yes, Councilmember Jefferson? Yes. Sorry, Mayor Sullivan.
Hold on, Councilman Jefferson, go ahead.
Yes, so I had a specific question and you answered half of it.
Yeah.
So what about signs, for example, at the library with QR codes, bulletin boards at local grocery stores?
Yeah. I will answer that part of the question too. So the phone text hybrid outreach for the statistically valid is because if we only took the approach where we're putting QR codes or we're giving people what we would consider much more of an opt-in approach where we're only instead of meeting people where we're at, we're putting it out there in places where they might run into it. We might have some bias in our sample that means it's not representative for the community at large. And so we are using this method as sort of this high level statistically valid. What do folks across the community think? To make sure we give all folks in Tumwater the opportunity to engage, we're pairing this with what we're calling the Community Engagement Survey of Tumwater residents. So we're going to work with staff to figure out what the best way is to put that out into the community. But essentially, we're offering an avenue for anyone who wants to participate in the community, in the survey, to do that, whether it's via QR code or whether it goes out in some sort of other city communication, because we do want to give everyone the opportunity to give that feedback. The reason we think it's valuable for city staff and for council to take both of those approaches is because what we find in the statistically valid survey often does not match what we see in this community engagement track, and sometimes what you all hear in meetings like this, where often what we find if we were only doing the community engagement track is we find the folks who participate are those who are the most passionate about certain topics, those who have time to participate in, who are seeking out opportunities for feedback. Those are often the folks who are the loudest and who reach out to city council and give their opinions the most. And so we still want that avenue for those folks to give feedback, but the statistically valid approach will allow us to compare that high level sentiment across the community with those folks who are choosing to engage on a more regular basis.
Also, because we want the youth voice.
Absolutely. And so even in the statistically valid survey, sort of the thing that's most important to making sure that sample is representative is we're going to set quotas by age and gender and race and ethnicity and education and income and all of these demographic characteristics to make sure that sample that is the folks we talk to in the statistically valid survey match the demographic makeup of the city of Tumwater. So even in the statistically valid version, we'll reach younger folks. And if we get that same level of feedback in the community engagement version, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
And go ahead.
Councilmember Dalhoff.
Thank you, Mayor. I dig where you're going, right? Because my focus is those who live in Tumwater, right?
Yeah.
We don't live in a bubble, right? So there's those who work, play, visit neighboring jurisdiction, other entities. Where does that play in with the community engagement piece? Because a lot of times when we're developing policy and voting, it's for those who live here, but there is an impact, and we do hear from those who don't live here, and it's valid. But also, I would love that piece identified in some capacity, because that helps us also set expectations and manage expectations, because sometimes they're not the same.
Yeah, of course. That's a great question, Jason and Lisa. That might be something for us to talk about. I think there's not really the added cost of putting it out and asking a question, where do you live, and allowing people outside of city of Tumwater to continue is definitely an option.
I mean, even tribal entities, right? Or
No, absolutely.
nonprofits or something to look at, right? Because if we're solely focused on residents, but then we're doing a messaging, but we're not including those who have overlap and who have businesses here, right? Then I'm trying to minimize kerfluffles.
No, I
When we
understand.
talk about belonging, let's identify all those entities
Yeah,
that come
no,
to Tumwater.
absolutely. And I appreciate you flagging that. I think that's, we can work with staff to if there's a list or something we can reach out to. On our end, we can't guarantee that those folks respond to that version of the
Right. It'd
survey.
be really awkward if we do all this work and they don't. I apologize in advance. The chamber did a recent survey about quality of life, and they did those kind of components.
Mhm.
Maybe the chamber, David Trafford would be a great resource to tap into, and Doug Ma.
Okay. Yeah, no, thank you for that. That's helpful because getting people to participate is the toughest part of this job. So we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Great.
Any other questions on research approach before I turn over to Kara?
Councilmember Agabi?
So thank you very much for your presentation. So 12 to 15-minute survey instrument. So you were saying you will have close to 45 questions? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there should be, again, depending on the type of question, we put up there about 3 minutes per question. So yeah, about between 36 and 45 questions, maybe on the high end of that. We're trying to work with staff to make sure we get everything we can in there and stay within that time limit.
So if I ask you how you're feeling, that takes less than a second to answer that question. And now if I ask you how you're feeling, if you live in Tumwater, how do you like Tumwater? What kind of value do you have? And what would you like to have in Tumwater? That answer is going to take you more than a minute.
Yes.
So if you have such questions at 45, the quality of the responses is not going to be good, because if I am taking a survey and I have 45 questions in front of me and I have such questions, I am going to give up because time is
Yeah, no,
of
absolutely.
the essence.
I appreciate the question and the concern. I think it's a big part of our job is to design surveys that keep people engaged and to make sure that folks can get through them, that they're accessible and they're not intimidating. And so I would say a big way we do that is that most of the questions have defined response categories. We'll say something like, this is very broad, but how satisfied are you with the services you receive from the city of Tumwater? Are you very satisfied, somewhat satisfied, not too satisfied, or not at all satisfied? That way that person can give a very quick response. Now, those open-ended questions, we will include a few of those because we want people to have a few avenues. There's some questions that a defined response category just can't give to us, but we also know if we asked 40 open-ended questions, no one would finish the survey. And so we try to make it easy by creating categories that are distinct enough to where we can deliver data to you all that's actionable while giving a few opportunities for open-ended feedback.
Okay, so I have a big question. So your sample size is 250.
Yes.
So your familiarity with the demographic of the city of Tumwater, how extensive is that?
Like, is the question within the 250, like how?
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll of the 250, like we'll base the percentages of different demographics based on the census information. And so it'll be percentage based. So, and again, I don't know the numbers here, but if we're saying the 18 to 29-year-old category, say that's 20% of residents, maybe 25% to make the math easy, then, we'll have around 75 respondents from that category. So we'll do it on a percentage basis.
Okay, I know that DEI is falling out of favor in Washington, D.C., but we still live in Washington State. And in Washington State, we value diversity and inclusivity. So in your survey, what we are going to be looking for is representation of everybody that lives within the city of Tumwater. If you have a 1% Native American or African American, your representation will show that you at least attempted to have as a sample size representation of that community.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a fair question, and it's tough, right? Because even if we reach a representative group, and I'll just use the 1% as an example, that's 2.5 residents of a certain demographic group, or we'll round up to 3. That's still much too few responses to give any statistical credence to the responses for that group. I'm not going to make an assumption about a group's opinions based on 1%, even if that's representative. So when I'm thinking about the responses from all of Tumwater, that 1% is important to make sure we're representative, but I think it is a challenge of survey research that we can't make definitive claims about specific groups, even though we want them included just based on sample sizes generally. And that is a limitation of the type of work that we do.
Thank you.
Councilmember Von Holtz.
By this because I recently took a job at a public engagement firm and I'm not on the research team.
Awesome.
But and I just did my first survey and I don't know that I would have thought to do telephone because I know that when I get an unknown call, I do not answer. So how are we going to make sure that the people that we're reaching out to are going to answer the phone?
Yeah, good. Excellent question. Huge challenge. I think even in the years that I've been doing this job, it's like the gold standard for what is the best approach, ways to get people to answer, and whether you should even be doing phone. It kind of ebbs and flows. I think in our experience, especially folks in like the 65 and over age group are much more likely to answer the phone. And this is still kind of emerging and evolving. We're actually seeing the youngest adult age groups being like more willing to answer phone calls. Folks in my own age demographic don't like to answer the phone at all. We would much rather get a text to respond to a survey. And of course, that differs from individual to individual. I think for this size of a survey, using phone is really just we're throwing everything at it approach, because the population in Tumwater is relatively small to even try to do a statistically valid survey. Our sort of pitch when we proposed for this was like, we got to do phone calls and text messages because of the data available. That's the only way that we think we'll be able to reach a statistically valid group, is to offer all those approaches, because even though many people won't pick up the phone that way, there are still a fair amount of folks who do. And so by kind of doing all those different avenues, the other thing we will do to combat that is we don't want to sort of overly prime people to participate in the survey, because we want it to be as random of a sample as possible. But one advantage of working with local governments is we can put out a communication to say like, hey, we're going to be in the field with a survey. So if you see a number that you don't know during this very finite time period, feel free to answer the phone, because it might be our research team. And folks who receive a text will say, it'll have the name of our organization and say, we're working with you all. So we do our best to try to mitigate those worries around, spam calls and those sort of things.
And then looking through an equity lens, that's where the community engagement survey would come in for, not everybody does have access to a telephone.
Totally. Yeah, we talked about this when we came down and worked with staff on, what are the different ways we can put that community engagement version out. And we have not committed or decided to anything, but we talked about, bringing iPads to community events or different ways to put it out there. That version will be online accessible. So it's essentially like, anywhere you can stick a QR code will be opportunities, and we'll work with the communication staff to put that out into different ways that can help us reach different communities that maybe don't have access to a phone. I'm going to pass it over to Kara to talk more about the sort of the content that we've come up with so far and the direction that the survey is going.
Okay, so what I talk about right now is going to be very high level, because you all will be receiving a draft of the questionnaire this Friday. But I just want to give a high level overview of what we're trying to do here. So as Jason talked about, the goal of this survey is to assess community sentiments about key issues facing the city of Tumwater to help inform the strategic plan. And a big part of this survey is we want to analyze how the community prioritizes key issues and how satisfied they are with the current issues. So that will help everyone understand if there are places where the city people are really satisfied with what the city's doing, and it is a high priority, but you're doing a really good job, or areas where maybe they don't want it prioritized in the community, or it's like an issue that they're the most worried about. So this will just get a pulse on what's happening with all of those and where people stand on the issues. And then finally, the goal of this is to create a baseline of community opinions across topics and issues. So if you guys want to do research like this in the future, you can ask questions and track how these sentiments are changing over time. And then the survey, it's not supposed to say survey purpose, the main topics of the survey. These are the topics that we came up with in conversations with Jason, Lisa, and the management staff. And so currently the key topics that we're going to be covering are just general community mood, how people feel about living in the city of Tumwater. Where a big portion of the survey is going to be government performance and priorities. Another important topic is going to be public safety. And we're also going to look at the economy, growth and development, homelessness, and then communications. So the communications aspect of this research is very important because a big part of public opinion research is it helps you understand what people know about the work that you do and what the city is actually doing. And so this survey is not only going to look at how people feel about things that are happening in Tumwater, but it will also highlight areas where people maybe aren't aware of what you're doing. And so the communications aspect of this will help you be able to reach people when you want to tell them what's actually happening in the city and what you're working on. All right, so this is just a very high level research process, so you know the steps that we're working through. So the discovery, this is really us working with the project team, so Jason and Lisa, just trying to understand what this research is going to be about and starting to get a baseline of what we need to be asking. We are currently in the middle of the design and feedback portion of the research. So the design is we're putting together the questionnaire that, which is the survey that the community will be responding to. And we're also getting feedback. So we are on our second iteration of the questionnaire right now. We've received feedback from Jason and Lisa and the management staff. And then we have another draft that we'll be speaking with Jason and Lisa about on Wednesday. And then once the edits of that draft have been reconciled, that is what you all will receive on Friday. Once we have finalized a questionnaire, that's when we're going to go into the field with the survey. And so that process is going to be the most time consuming of this due to the sample size in Tumwater. It is a small population, like Devin talked about. And so in order to get enough people to have a statistically valid survey, we need it to be in the field for probably close to 2 weeks before we will likely be able to get that response rate that we want, so we can be sure about the results that we're getting from the survey. And since we are doing 2 different surveys, the statistically valid survey will be in the field first. And then once that is finished, we will put the community engagement into the field. And so that's when the city and the communications team will be putting those QR codes around and all of the outreach that will happen around that. We want to separate those so that people aren't taking both of the surveys twice, or it's confusing about what survey is actually being answered. Yes.
Councilmember Dodd.
Thank you, Mayor. So you've had a first iteration with staff. It's gone back to you. You've zhuzhed. It's coming back on Wednesday. You're going to zhuzh again. It's going to go to council. What is the timeline? If we provide input, will there be any more zhuzhing?
Yes.
Okay.
There will be more zhuzhing.
Thank you. I was like trying to put that in. It's a great word. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes, and I'll go over the timeline after this slide just so we have a better idea of where we're at. And so once we collect all of the data from both of the surveys, that's when we're going to do our analysis. We'll have preliminary, we call it top line results, prior to the full report coming out, and those will come as 2 different results for the statistically valid survey and the community engagement survey. But the report that we're going to give you is going to be a combination of both of those surveys. So we can, like Devin said, look at if there's any discrepancies between what the community at large feels about these topics, and then if there's a and versus the people who are most likely to be giving feedback to the city of Tumwater. So those are the final, so analysis and reporting. We'll deliver the full report. And then once we deliver the report, DHM is happy to do any sort of presentations and come and talk about the report once that is finalized.
I have, Councilmember Kathy online has a question.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. This is just a small question. I'm just reading what is here that you have up at the moment. And under report, I don't know if I've ever seen this word before. What is a psychographic analysis?
Yeah, so a psychographic analysis is when we'll ask questions that are not specifically demographic based, but we'll analyze how people respond to questions based off of how they've responded to other questions. So say we ask a question, how satisfied are you with the job that the city council or the government of Tumwater, city government of Tumwater is doing? And there's a potential where we might look at the people who said net unsatisfied and how they respond to other questions. So that's a type of analysis that we'll do instead of just looking at how men versus women answer questions, for example.
I think people find it interesting that they're being psychoanalyzed for a survey of the city. Anyway, I'll be careful. I'll be careful how I answer things. Thanks.
The word makes it sounded a lot more intrusive than it actually is. Any other questions? Okay. All right, moving on to the key dates. This is just the timeline as of now. So April 18th, Jason is going to share the latest draft of the questionnaire with the council for review. On April 24th, we will need the comments back to Jason. And then we are aiming to have final approval of the questionnaire by Jason and Lisa by April 30th. Within that timeline, we are going to reconcile comments from the council as well as further comments from the management team and Jason and Lisa. And so there will be probably 1 or 2 drafts of the questionnaire that happen in that timeline. We are hoping to get the statistically valid survey into the field by May 2nd, and it'll be there for about 12 days. Once that is out of the field, we'll go into the field for almost a month for that's not June. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. That's gonna go to, this is all messed up.
That's right. May 19th is for the.
Oh, okay, yes, that is, okay. The community engagement survey will be in the field for a month, but after that, or during that time, we will deliver the top line results for the statistically valid survey. So those results will come before the community engagement survey is complete. And then by June 9th, we'll deliver top line results for the community engagement survey. The June 14th should be June 9th for the fielding for that. My apologies. And then by June 23rd, DHM will deliver a full report with the combined results of both surveys.
Councilmember Agabi.
So for your statistical value survey, speak English, Peter. What is your confidence interval? Are you looking at 95? Would that be considered statistical valid? 96?
95%.
95%. Okay, so 95% from a sample size of 250.
Yes, and our margin of error for this, I believe it's 6.9% plus or minus due to the sample size. Wait, 6.3.
6.3. Okay. Some of us are going to go into that result with the two fine comb. I'm a biostatistical epidemiologist, so we are going to learn about Tumwater.
Yes.
Good. We appreciate the extra eyes.
Councilmember Swarthout.
You talked about the numbers on, so we know 250 people is your goal for the statistical survey. Then what's the number on the community engagement? Is it the same 250 or sounds like that's bigger?
The goal, I don't know if we have a full goal for the community engagement. The reason that it's in the field for nearly a month is to give the city the opportunity to collect as much responses as possible. Devin, is there a specific goal that you have?
I would say we prefer not to set sample size goal for the community engagement version because it's not representative. We're not going to talk about things like statistical significance or margin of error in the same way because we know it won't be representative. And so we have suspicions based on our conversations with the team that we'll see a really robust community engagement. The number of people, like it'll be high, but we don't know that for sure. So because it's so variable, we don't like to put a number on it because we don't want to promise anything we can't deliver. But I wouldn't be surprised to see at least 250, especially since we're giving a month for folks to respond, but I can't say with absolute certainty.
Oh, we kind of joke sometimes that I feel like I'm the face of the people that respond. I am the demographic, I think. And so
Fair.
And I don't know about time, passion, and being the loudest, but I used to have a landline. I don't have that any longer. So, but I appreciate, and I not to make light of you, but your age. And I also want to give props to Alyssa Jones Woods when she did the survey for the climate preparation that we were able to get a more robust representation. So I feel that we'll get a robust representation from your team as well.
Good to hear, and you're welcome to make any jokes or laughs.
Okay.
We're happy to.
I have Councilmember Kathy's hand up, and then we'll go to Councilmember Sortha.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have kind of a general question about, taking surveys at this time in our, history and at this period of time with all of the upheaval and uncertainty and fearfulness and so forth about everything political and all the things that are happening. I'm wondering if you have taken any surveys since there's been so much upheaval, or do you feel that the times that we're in and are going to be taking this survey will impact it in any particular way?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate your question. I think we have, this is like our main part of our business. So we've been doing this all the time since November, since January. We've been in the field with surveys nonstop that time for different types of sample in different communities and statewide and counties and cities. And so I do think that we are aware that it might discourage certain groups of people from participating. I think we've taken some small actions to edit sort of the script for the phone callers just right off the bat to make really clear, like, hey, we're calling on research with the city of Tumwater. And then we customize that script for the text that gets sent out and for the calls to just try to be really clear that we appreciate folks being willing to engage. Like if they're hearing that script, that means they picked up the phone. And so we want to really quickly let them know that, we're with an entity, the city, that they hopefully trust, that's who they're giving their feedback to. So to go back and answer your question, we haven't noticed like a quantitative dip in people's response rates. It's also like a little too early to tell, I think, at a macro level if people are less likely to respond. But we've been doing surveys the whole time, and we haven't seen a huge drop off in people's willingness to participate any more than we had in any other period over the last couple of years.
So you haven't noticed that people respond to something that has to do with government in maybe a more cautious or even, a more not hostile, but, negative way?
So willingness to respond, we haven't seen. I would say that doesn't mean that folks haven't been more negative about government when they do respond. And often that's a challenge for any public entity, we've done some larger surveys where I'll pick on the State Department of Transportation because their data is public. We can ask questions about specific service areas. And we've done this survey multiple times over the last 20 years. And we can see a decrease in how people's satisfaction is for certain when we ask them how good of a job is the Department of Transportation doing, we see a fairly large dip in people's satisfaction. When we ask them about their satisfaction with certain services that the Department of Transportation provides, we see almost no dip. And in some cases, we see an increase. And we know that that's attributed to people's frustration with like government generally. And so, again, I don't think there's been enough time for us to say definitively if we're seeing patterns change. And I would also say, again, Kara and I are focused mostly on Washington. If anything, I think in our state level survey that DHM conducts, people are maybe more positive about their local governments as a maybe comparison point to national politics in the moment. And that's based on very little data, maybe one survey that we've had in the field statewide since then. But in terms of willingness to participate, we haven't seen a drop off.
Okay, thanks. That's very helpful because we've done a number of surveys over the last years. And so it'll be interesting to see how people answer this time. Thank you for that.
We'll go back to Councilmember Swarthout. Apparently she had some more, and then I'll go to Councilmember Dahlhoff.
I just had one question about, or caveat about doing a text message after. I'm sure we probably have all received the toll message.
Yes.
Text message. We've all been, had that on our phones. No, have you had it? Okay. So I realize that you realize that you're aware of that and that we'll be very cautious about, as far as identifying ourselves and everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally. I feel like when anyone gets, when any of those different sort of phishing scams I also receive that text message, are sort of as robust. It definitely makes it tougher to do our job, but we're always aware of that's going on and trying to do our best to mitigate.
Councilmember Swarthout.
Dahlhoff.
Jeez.
It's because our outfits are complementary. I totally get it. And we look alike as well. The one thing, I realize it's getting close to night. I'll make it snappy. In the past, we have been presented with surveys, and it was presented in a manner saying, "Oh, the community wants this," or "The community does not want this. They don't make priority." And then we dig a little deeper, and we realize it's one sliver of our community. You talked about who. In your report, are you going to show the nuances in that? Because sometimes, for us to develop better policy and continuously improve, it's understanding those nuances, but a lot of times that's used to say, we'll see, no, we don't want that. We'll see, yes, we want that. Does your report go into that in a little more detail?
Yeah, absolutely. I think kind of why I called out David, even though he's not here, and his sort of ability to visualize data, specifically demographic, and I'll go back to the psychographic. Those different ways, if one way someone answers a question is we like to say like driving the way they're answering other questions, or if a subgroup of the population is sort of driving an outcome, we'll make sure to talk about that, what we'll call it the top line number. So if, say, for whatever we're asking about, if 55% of the community agrees or is supportive, but then we see that, 90% of women support it, and
it doesn't discount the other opinions.
Absolutely. But
Okay,
we
thank you.
will look at that demographic analysis, and we'll actually deliver what we call the crosstab, which, if you're not a numbers geek like we are, is sometimes overwhelming to look at, but it'll have the answer to every survey question by all of the different demographics, and you can see the different percentages for individual groups, and you can see if they're statistically different from each other. And so you all will have access to look at that data and comb through, but we also will do a full analysis on that and try to pull out the ones we think are important or interesting and visualize those in the report.
Thank you.
All right. So, any other questions? So, I appreciate you being here, because for us to explain this in the depth and with the ability that you were able to, I think this is very, very helpful so that we know what we will be expecting and then kind of what the timeline will be. So I really, really appreciate you being here this evening. So,
Of course, thank you for having us. And maybe if we're lucky when we present, we'll get to walk away with a pen. I'm just planting that for the future.
you just
When the project's complete.
that might just happen. That might just happen. That might just happen.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda is resolution number R 2025-009, mitigation and maintenance of the Davis Meeker Gary Oak tree. And Lisa.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council members. I appreciate your time tonight. So this is basically an update for you on the mitigation and maintenance of the Davis Meeker Gary Oak tree, an alternative that we have identified based on the level 3 tree risk assessment that was presented to you, I believe it was early March, from Todd Prager and Associates. So essentially, we are proposing a resolution that would do a couple of things. Primarily, it would allocate money to help us look at reducing public safety risks, as well as retaining the tree in a safe condition. It would also authorize all of the actions that we need to undertake in order to accomplish that goal. It does ask us to come back with a budget amendment if that's necessary at some point in time. And then it also asks us to come back with additional recommendations after we've taken this initial step that really address the issue of long-term funding, mitigation, and ongoing maintenance recommendations. So this is essentially what I would call our very first step. So in the Consulting Arborists report, they had a very specific set of options that were identified as techniques that could be utilized to mitigate the tree, any safety risks that the tree posed. And they had a very specific combination of those options that they called option B, which essentially retains, manages, and monitors the tree over a period of time. The components involved in that recommendation from them are to conduct reduction pruning that would reduce the risk of branch, stem, or whole tree failure. They acknowledge that the balance would occur, there would be a balance that would occur. The areas of the tree that they've identified as having a higher risk would likely have more reduction, whereas ensuring that we are maintaining the health of the tree in other portions that don't pose as high of a risk. The other thing that they've recommended is supplemental support to further reduce risk of branch failure. And also, again, reducing the likelihood of targets that would be impacted by any failures. Their primary candidate area that they've identified in their report for cabling is the southeast stem, and that's the stem that actually is growing directly over Old Highway 99. They also are recommending further root zone management as part of their analysis. They pulled back, I believe it's almost a foot of soil and rock from around the base of the tree. They're suggesting that we go a bit further with more removal of material, as well as then mulching and testing to understand the health of the soil in and around the tree root system, and then planting native plants and making the conditions much more beneficial to the tree than its current condition. And then they are recommending ongoing monitoring, both on a regular basis. So this tree assessment, when you look at the very beginning of the executive summary, it is applying and establishing a risk level that's based on a 3-year time frame. And so they are asking for or recommending an ongoing monitoring program every 3 to 5 years. But then also they're recommending some monitoring that would occur after storm events to inspect the tree and see if there are any damages that occur during that for that period of time, or as a result of a specific storm event. So this is a preliminary cost estimate, and this was what was used specifically of the recommendation from Prager and Associates, option B that I just reviewed. This is based on a couple of pieces of information. It's based on information provided in the Todd Prager report. It's also based on information that we have in terms of our engineering staff, for example, on traffic control costs, those types of things. It is a worst case scenario estimate. Our intent is to make sure that we have an adequate request to you with an authorization for an adequate amount. Do we believe that it will take all of this money? Probably not.
we will look for ways to save. But this is a worst case scenario. For example, this assumes that we would have to hire all of the labor costs associated with both monitoring as well as traffic control. Whereas we know we've offered, and we have a new urban forester that is starting, I believe, May 1st, thank you, from the Peanut Gallery. I appreciate that. So we're very certain that that person is going to be able to do a lot of this monitoring. Maybe not all of it, because they are recommending some aerial monitoring on an ongoing basis, but that would be a piece that would push the cost estimate towards the lower end. But from a worst case scenario, planning for the true long-term need, at least for this initial step, we are making a recommendation. This is the cost estimate that we used to develop the $55,000 number that is part of the resolution. So the requested action at this point in time is to adopt resolution number 2025-009 related to mitigation and maintenance of the Davis Meeker Gary Oak tree. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions? Do I hear a motion? Councilmember Dahlhoff.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. I move to adopt resolution R 2025-009 relating to funding for mitigation and maintenance of the Davis Meeker Gary Oak.
I'll second.
Been moved by Councilmember Dahlhoff, seconded by Councilmember Von Holst. Any additional comments? All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, everyone. And so this sets the groundwork for our long-term moving forward process. So I appreciate that. Next item on the agenda is Administrative Services Annual Report and.
Oh, God.
I'll keep it short, Joan.
Councilmember Kathy, your speaker is on.
I know.
Oh, good
I
evening.
wasn't talking about that, but then when I saw what you were doing, they'll probably think, oh yeah, she is.
All right,
Good evening.
I know it's a long night. We'll get there.
Oh, gosh. Good evening, Mayor, Council.
Go ahead,
members.
Michelle.
So I'm here to talk about the Administrative Services 2024 Annual Report. Thank you, Tracy. So Administrative Services supports the city's mission and strategic priorities by refining and sustaining a great organization. That is the strategic priority. We collaborate actually with all city departments on core internal operations. Key functions being human resources, so looking at recruitment, workforce planning, employee relations, benefits administration, labor relations, collective bargaining, safety, training and development, compliance with labor laws. And one thing I left off was FMLA and PFML leave administration, workers' compensation, and ADA and reasonable accommodations. The city clerk's portion, they are very critical in maintaining official city records, preparing agendas and minutes, public disclosure, recording of legal documents, maintaining ordinances and resolutions, and municipal code updates.
You're right, that was fast.
That was fast. Yeah. You're welcome. So looking at 2024 accomplishments, we conducted a comprehensive classification and compensation study to ensure internal pay equity and alignment with market standards. After completing that study, you are all in support of developing and implementing a new non-represented salary schedule, which supported competitive recruitment and employee retention with the city. We strengthened labor relations by a successful city team negotiations with the firefighters contract, emphasizing collaboration and fiscal responsibility. And when we're looking at the city team, that was the city administrator, the finance director, the fire chief, along with, a few other people critical to that team negotiation. We developed a citywide workforce planning strategy and initiated work on the city's first formal workforce plan to address future staffing needs and succession planning. Um, The city of Tumwater achieved WELL City status through the Association of Washington Cities, which allows us to have a 2% reduction in our employee benefit costs. And over the course of a year, that's pretty significant. We worked on enhancing recruitment and onboarding processes, improving efficiency and candidate experience. We also improved public access to city records and meetings through expanded use of digital tools and transparency initiatives. So I don't know if everyone's familiar with it, but we do have a public records portal for public records requests. We have a Municode meeting portal where you can view time-stamped videos of public meetings. We have the Tumwater Records Center, which allows community members to do an online search for minutes, ordinances, resolutions, and things of that sort. And we also have a City of Tumwater YouTube page, which has the 24 and 2025 meetings uploaded generally within 48 hours of meeting conclusion. So by the numbers in 2024, we hired 46 full-time employees through recruitment, hiring, and the onboarding process. I'm just going to add, we also had 9 internal promotions during that time period. We had 63 seasonal employees recruited, hired, and onboarded, and that encompasses parks and recreation, operations, and facilities and maintenance. We had 29 full-time employees leave the city, and the attrition rate would be 12.58%. So of those 29 full-time employees that left the city, 4 were terminations, 8 were retirements. We had 8 that left for new positions, 1 that moved and relocated, and 8 for personal reasons. So we do try and track definitely attrition rate to see how we can improve on our retention. Ethnically diverse hire rate was 19.57%. We've got gender diversity listed. We had OSHA work-related reportable injuries and illnesses that we keep track of. We had 13 of those, which only allowed 4 days away from work out of those 13 incidents. We do have a company that we work with called Ready Rebound, and we do try for anything that's work-related to get employees back into the workplace as soon as possible, even if that's on light duty.
Hold on one moment, Councilmember Jefferson.
Yes, your attrition rate was 12%, almost 13%. What is it looking like in comparison to previous years?
You know, I am not sure what the 2023 rate is. I would have to get back to council on that, but I can do that tomorrow.
All right.
And also, I might also say that we did, during COVID, there was a definite layoff during that period of time. So some of that might have been a little bit skewed because then some of them are hired and then, so COVID, I still think sometimes has an impact on some of the numbers that we have sometimes. So I just want to be able to make sure you take that into account.
I would definitely agree with that, Mayor. Just looking at the first quarter of 2025 with the new approved budget and the positions that you have funded for that biennial budget. So for the first quarter, we had 11 employees start between January and March. We have 8 new employees starting employment with the city between April 16th and May 1st. That's pretty significant. And we've already done 25 seasonal employee hires this first quarter of 2025.
Okay, Councilmember Jefferson.
Yes, Michelle, what are we looking like for our engineers? Are we at 100% yet?
We are not. We actually do have several postings still out there, including the Deputy Transportation and Engineering Director.
Okay, so are we at 50%, 75%, 20%?
For engineering, I'd probably say closer to 60 to 70% right now.
Okay, thank you.
Definitely working on recruitment strategies. That's going to be a push the next quarter here, speaking with each department, especially when we have difficult to fill positions. Let's see. So the team that I have, we have Matt Middleton is our Senior Human Resources Analyst, Mallory Coleman, a Human Resources Analyst. We've got Tate Spitters, a human resources specialist. He'll be working quite a bit on training and development. And you know Melody, our city clerk, and Tracy Core, our deputy city clerk. I really appreciate the entire team that I have here at the City of Tumwater. I think they're definitely dedicated to professionalism and excellence, and I see that every day with them. So my goal list for 2025-26 for the department is actually quite long. I'll go over a little bit of that with you. We'd really like to optimize organizational development and training. We'll be implementing a niche academy, which is a comprehensive learning and development program, which is an online program to bring to city staff to complete all of our required trainings and then build tracks for each different department, specifically related to training required in those departments. Also developing a supervisory and leadership training program for emerging and current leaders just here at the City of Tumwater. Developing a formal talent acquisition strategy for departments and difficult to fill positions. We really are, our goal here at the city is to be an employer of choice and really attract and retain excellent talent. We'd like to complete the workforce planning that we began mid last year. We have departmental process optimization and developing standard operating procedures. That's one thing that we'd really like to audit, streamline, and standardize our workflows, documenting clear SOPs. With the goal, of course, always to increase accuracy and efficiency. We have multiple software module implementations going on right now. We have a program called NeoGov, and that's our governmentjobs.com hiring portal. There's various modules within that. We've implemented NeoGov Attract the last quarter of last year, which allows us to outreach for anyone in the government jobs database. So being more proactive that way. We're also implementing the performance module management right now. The city hasn't had a formalized tracking system for each department to do that. So we'll be rolling out a test department for that in July, and then hopefully rolling out at least the non-represented staff for 2026. Developing a NeoGov onboarding module. As the city grows, that will allow us to really streamline the onboarding process for new employees, having their own portal, being able to complete paperwork, watch videos, complete initial onboard training. And we are currently, of course, in the middle of the ERP implementation. There's a huge HRIS module within ERP or Munis that's, we're utilizing some various basic portions right now. I do have training set up with Tyler Technologies for our department that will begin in June to really look at optimizing all those modules and using all that tracking. The city personnel policy review and update that we'll be undertaking this year and bringing that to management team. Transitioning to meeting action minutes, and that's something I know that's been brought to you previously. So for all of our public meetings, implementing the meeting action minutes, which actually summarize the key actions taken during meetings and provide less risk than the verbatim minutes do, as they reduce misinterpretation, protect confidentiality, and keep focus on accountability and outcomes. Employee benefit analysis, completing a records management grant application, conducting an employee satisfaction survey. That's something we'll look at maybe towards the end of this year, the first part of 2026. And always developing strategies to promote employee engagement and well-being. So I think that is all that I have right now. Just kind of the overview of 2024 and the goals for 2025 and 2026. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Councilmember Swarthout.
That's impressive. That's you have a very aggressive goal for this. This is super. And I know people have been really pleased that having you come on board and the work that you've done so far. So I appreciate that. And I'm really going to date myself. It feels like I'm up at family Christmas. Like, so where are we going to put everybody? So is a carpenter part of your skills then, and where are we going to put all our new staff members?
That is also a very good question.
Yeah, that brings us to some of our other questions of when we start doing lease agreements for where we relocate staff.
That feedback is much appreciated. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate it. All right. The
Debbie?
next, yes, Councilmember Kathy.
Yeah, I wanted to compliment on the report and to say, according to what we're going to do with the minutes now, you'll be editing out some of my comments. Is that true? Okay. Do we have a deal, or do I need to do something else? Thank you. You're doing a great job. I appreciate the report.
Thank you, Councilmember Kathy.
Yeah.
All right, with that, we will move to committee reports. First committee report is Public Health and Safety, Councilmember Agabi.
Mayor, our meeting was canceled.
Okay, that makes it easy. Councilmember Althauser is not here this evening, so I believe we can probably go ahead and have that. We can have an update. Yes. Yeah, because that's one of the things. The next item is Public Works, Councilmember Swarthout.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have a meeting on Thursday, April 17th at 8 a.m. There's only one item on the agenda, so I expect that this will probably be a very short meeting. We have a grant agreement amendment number 1 with the Washington Recreation and Conservation Office for the Percival Creek project.
Great, thank you. And then Budget and Finance Committee will be meeting on Friday, April 25th. And I think this is working out very well of having monthly Budget and Finance Committee meetings. We will be doing, again, the monthly financial update, the Community Human Services Program funding. We'll be discussing that, and discussion on the ordinance 2025-006, which is amending our execution of contracts and other legal documents. So that all those things will then come to council, but we will start with that in Budget and Finance. So then now we will go to the Mayor and City Administrator report and start with Administrator Parks.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. I'll be brief. Just a reminder that this Saturday is a very, very busy day for the city of Tumwater. So we have the Earth Day Volunteer Work Party and the Arbor Day Plant Giveaway happening at Historical Park. That starts at 10 o'clock. And then, of course, it's everybody's favorite, the annual Easter Egg Dash. That starts at 11 o'clock at Tumwater High School. I did want to remind people in the city of Tumwater that April 22nd, next Tuesday, is when they are able to vote on the Transportation Benefit District. We hope that they will take advantage of that opportunity to get out and cast their vote. And then I wanted to update the council. I believe this past weekend, the Tumwater Valley Golf Course hosted the 2025 South Puget Sound Spring Invitational. It was the first collegiate golf tournament held in the 55-year history of the golf course. So we hosted men's and women's teams from Bellevue College, Olympic College, Centralia College, Pacific Lutheran University, University of Puget Sound, and Whitworth University. So glad to have those young people in our community for a weekend. And that's all I have, unless there are any questions.
Great, okay. So as Administrator Parks mentioned, we will have a lot of events, and I will be opening up the Arbor Day and event, Earth Day, Arbor Day event at 10 o'clock. Then I will be dashing over to Tumwater High School to then start the Easter egg dash at 11 o'clock. So it'll be a very busy day for me. My other update is I wanted to make an announcement that over the last few months, after Chief Wicks announced that he would be retiring, I had the enormous challenge of what do we do for the police force and the police department? What is the next steps? So one of the things that I viewed is going to do an external recruitment is usually something you do when you need to make some culture change. You need to do some kind of change. And that's not what our police department needed because we have a great culture in our police department. So I spent quite a bit of time connecting with multiple different areas of the police department. I talked to individual rank and file officers. I talked to leadership members, and I've talked to a lot of different other groups. I did several ride-alongs, which was very beneficial. And with that, I made the decision that Commander, which we used to be Commander Mason, and then Deputy Chief Mason will become the next chief of our Tumwater Police Department. Chief Wicks will be on the books until June 30th when he actually retires. And Chief Mason will then become effective July 1. So we have a great deputy commander, deputy chief who's stepped up to the role. He will also have to go through the Civil Service Commission to make that legitimate and official. But I've had a lot of support from a lot of different areas. I understand that no matter when you pick anything, you don't make 100% people happy, but I do believe that this is the right move forward. When we had the fire department in kind of limbo for a really long period, probably almost a year, it just doesn't work very well to just keep everybody in limbo. This way we can move forward and work together. So I wanted to make that formal announcement at this meeting tonight. So starting July 1, Jay Mason will be our official police chief. Well, that'll come at a later date.
After he starts?
He doesn't start until July 1.
So we're going to vote on the contract before then.
I don't believe that those contracts count. Whoa.
Oh. Just clarifying when that comes to council to approve the contract.
It won't come to council to approve a contract.
I'm confused.
So just recently, in the last month or so, the council approved a director contract, a template director
those
contract.
Mhm.
And so as long as it sticks with the template format, those director contracts no longer need to come before the council.
Right. Even though if it's like a new hire. So
That's correct.
gotcha.
Mhm.
There are a couple positions in the code that do require confirmation by the council, but the chief of police is not one of those.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Okay. All right, with that, we will move into council member reports. And Councilmember Kathy, since you are in Zoom land, I will let you start.
That's the fourth time you've picked on me to go first. But first thing I want to say is that I have no idea where my notes are from my meetings. Solid Waste Advisory Council and Olympic Region Clean Air Act. When I do, if there are critical things there that you need to know, I will bring them to the work session or at some time. I also have two other things I wanted to bring up as kind of like good of the order, but I won't do that now because of the time, and we'll either talk to somebody between now and the work session or talk about them at the work session.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then getting it on the agenda if it needs to be on the agenda.
I'm sorry, what?
And letting staff know so they can get it on the agenda if it needs to be.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. Councilmember Swarthout.
Thank you, Mayor. I had one meeting on April 4th. The Thurston Regional Planning Council met. We had a presentation from the Pack Mountain Workforce Development Council. We also had, they released
No idea where I put those.
the Regional Transportation Plan for public review. The public comment period is extended from April 11th to May 9th. And so we have an opportunity to review that document, and I can send links to the council members as well if you're interested in that. We had a federal and state legislature update. We had talked about the commute reduction commute trip reduction local plans, and also got an update on the Martin Way crossing strategy. And I just wanted to follow up too, because I think you already mentioned as well, but we do is it all right to be able to, we have the TBD, the ballot is before our voters, and we hope that April 22nd, which is what, a week from today. This month is going by so quickly. And so we've put information out there. If anybody has questions, there's information on the Tumwater website as well. But this is what the sales tax that we collect is just a renewal, and we'll be using this money for our roads and sidewalks in Tumwater. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Dolhoff.
Thank you, Mayor. Thurston County Opioid Response Task Force Prevention Subgroup met, and we're really focusing for our 2025 SMART goals is to improve awareness of our residents and community members on local safe medication and then return disposal options. So more to come on that, and that overplays with our nonprofits who are providing those services, also Tumwater Hopes, our fire and police, and other responders as well. LOT met. And one of the questions that came up from that is regarding the Deschutes Estuary restoration. And has Tumwater received any update on who is going to be replacing Ann Larson from Department of Enterprise Services?
So I have not had any official notification. We did have a 30% design review meeting with their team, and there was a gentleman who was introduced as the project manager from DES. So I believe there is somebody at least temporarily filling in, and particularly on that design component. I haven't heard anything more beyond that.
Right, like the challenge is I don't want to lose that momentum, right? And then I think in one of the proposed budgets, there is something for the Deschutes Estuary in one of those. But like, I don't want to lose that momentum.
Right.
So every time going like, who's going to replace, who's going to replace, who's going to replace?
Yeah.
Because that's pretty, I mean, we're projecting out, 40, 50 years doing that work. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Agabi.
Thank you, Mayor. So I was supposed to attend the Transportation Board meeting on Wednesday, but I had an early medical appointment, so I wasn't able to make that.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Jefferson.
Yes. On the 10th of April, we had a T-Hope Suicide Prevention Training Session, QPR, Question, Persuade, and Refer. And it came about because in 2019, we had 3 youths in Thurston County commit suicide, 2 of who were 9 years old. So the task force just goes around and just train groups. They've trained Starbucks, they've trained North Thurston School District, and they came down to train T-Hopes. So some key points were, we talked about depression, anxiety, substance use, and the importance of direct, emphatic communication. So if someone's thinking about suicide, ask them, are you thinking about suicide? So here's some statistics from our last Healthy Youth Survey. Highlighted that 30% of middle and high school students experience depression and anxiety, and 15% have seriously contemplating suicide, and it's increasing in our society. So questions to ask someone having behavioral health crisis, how to persuade them to stay alive and get help. There's certain ways for us to do that. We have to ask, does this person have a suicide plan? And do they have the means? So are there pills available? Do they have a gun and ammo in the house? There is stigma surrounding it. A lot of the kids said that they didn't want to tell their parents because their parents were already stressed out and they didn't want to burden them further. Also, with the stigma, kids often feel like if they talk to someone about it, and then they're going to be labeled. And so they're afraid of that. We spoke about risk factors and impulsivity. So risk factors for suicide include struggling with behavioral health challenges, previous suicide attempts, and substance use. about 2 more minutes, Madam Mayor. Impulsiveness was highlighted as a significant factor because suicide is an impulsive event often driven when someone uses a substance. So in closing, we discuss myths about suicide and the importance of asking the direct questions and avoiding judgment or saying, why you have all this? Why are you suicidal? You shouldn't be. And in closing, our goal now is to continue to reduce talking about suicide. How can we share this with the community? Because we know that our first responders and military people like myself are at higher risk of suicide. So how do we educate the public and just put this out there, right? Let's talk about suicide. So Jason, I'd like to speak with you about that. And public health and safety, also something for you guys to have on your agenda. With that said, I'm done, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Von Holtz.
Thank you, Mayor. Tomorrow night, we have intercity transit, and I know that leadership was in mediation today, so hopefully we are closer to a contract for the drivers. We have my favorite, well, my second favorite event. My first favorite event is 4th of July, but the Egg Dash, I'm so excited because I have a new grandbaby that I get to introduce to this. And Councilmember Swarthout and I have stuffed many of the eggs that will be out for the little ones this year. Next week we have a work session, but if we take a little bit of extra time before our work session, we can go to the Tumwater McDonald's, and it's McTeacher night, and Grimace is going to be there. And a lot of the proceeds are going to go to Peter G. Schmidt. So I think would be a nice, come and have your the ice cream machine will be broken, but have a Happy Meal, and we can have our work session, and it will be great. That's all for me.
Thank you. What are you going to eat before you come to the work session, right? Yeah. Thank you. All right. With that, we have no further business, and we are adjourned for the evening. Thank you, everyone.